Hey, dreamers, and welcome back to Dreamers Unite. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am honored, grateful that you are joining me yet again. This show, if you're on this channel, it's all about our dreams. What is a dream? What is our dream? How do we get there? How do we take that idea, that seed, and manifest it into the world? So on the show, we share information. And one of our guests that I'm going to introduce you to right now has lots of information to share because success leaves clues. Okay. And so do our mistakes. And really, I like to look at mistakes as really lessons. Okay. Failures are not really failures unless you don't learn anything from them. Today, we have Charles Dixon as our guest, and he is a seasoned music industry veteran with an expertise in selecting, promoting, and breaking lead singles for superstars like Beyonce, Rihanna, Nas, Kelly Rowland, just to name a few. Charles has over 30 years of experience in the music industry, beginning his career in radio and later working with major record labels. In 2003, Charles formed Skip, offering consulting and promoting services to indie and major labels for developing new artists. And if that's not enough, this respected and talented DJ and music industry mogul continues to serve as a master mixer DJ for WBLS. That's right, people. I said it, WBLS. On Friday late nights and for special holiday events. So without further ado, let me just say welcome, 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 Charles Dixon to Dreamers Unite. I'm grateful and honored to have you.
I'm honored to be here and I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and let me just say that we actually met on Facebook.
Right.
And so that's not normally how I have my Dreamers Unite guests. But it was really by divine design through this is how it works on Dreamers Unite, networking through interview. Shout out Joanne English Robinson.
Absolutely.
And really the rest is history. We kind of connected and really love what you're doing. So let's jump right into it. So you started out as a DJ and then of course, ended up in, sort of producing and all of that. So why DJing? Where did that inspiration, that seed for you come from?
Well, as a kid and growing up in Baltimore, elementary to, I guess, junior high school, I always had a love for music. But I was like this really shy, nerdy kid, and I didn't really socialize much. I was into my own little world. I used to like to draw, I collect comic books. I went from comic books to records. And I would watch Soul Train and kind of mimic the dances, learn the dances, so that if I ever went out anywhere and I wanted to meet people or meet a girl or whatever, I would know how to dance. You have to know how to dance. Went out to a club, especially if you love music. So it started there. I love to dance. And then I noticed from party to party how certain DJs would like kind of messed up the flow of the music. Like, wait a minute, why do you play this song after that song? I was like, I'm going to learn how to DJ. So that's kind of how it started. Started collecting records. And as you can see, I have thousands of them. And I learned how to DJ. And by the time I got to my senior year in high school, I was doing little parties. And by the time I got to college, became like a big campus DJ. And I did local radio, the local radio station on the campus. And from there, I joined a record pool. And I was actually managing charts for the top DJs in DC. We had like 75 DJs record pool. And that's when I started dealing with the record label. That was like 1985. So by 87, I ended up on WPGC. I was discovered in a club in a club called the Dome. The music director came in town. I was actually interning at the radio station, but I asked the promotions director to, tell the music director, hey, if the music director comes in town, tell him to check me out the club. I got a nice crowd, he might like it. So, one day I'm DJing at the club. I think it was a Saturday night. And, I saw this guy sitting at a table in front of the DJ booth. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. This guy's watching me and sipping on a drink. He's like, okay. When it was over, he walks up to the booth and goes, I love what you're doing. I'm Albie D, and I'm coming from the I'm the music director at the station. I heard you wanted to meet me. I'm like, yeah, I do. He said, I love your set. How would you like to do this on the radio? Now in DC, this is like 1987. Never been done before. There's never been a show with DJs mixing on the air live, especially for 5 hours. I mean, they were like, people were sending some tapes. There might be one DJ or two DJs, local DJs, go-go DJs are playing, but no one had like a real like residency on a radio station during prime time, 7 to midnight, 50,000 watts in a market that was number 8 in the country. I was the first to ever do that in DC. And after me, it was like hundreds of DJs came after me in that city. It's one of those things, if you knew then, if I knew then what I know now, I'd be able to, I guess, benefit from it. But
Well, you have benefited from it. Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
really capitalize. I mean, really
Yeah.
just, I was kind of falling into it and going with the flow. If
Got
I
it.
knew what was going on, I would have been the flow, but it's
Well, let
cool.
me tell you, let me say this. I think you were the flow when you were independently promoting Beyonce and Rihanna. How did all that happen?
So I was actually at Columbia. First project was A. Marie's project. That was kind of like, it wasn't a priority for the label because she was new and young and they were in development stage. And I think her A&R guy kind of fell off. So as a promotion deck, I kind of stepped in because every label that I worked for, I was always involved in A&R because I'm a DJ and I know what DJs want. I was
Mhm,
able to like kind of guide her project.
mhm.
And then they were going solo with Beyonce. And I got behind that project. And right in the middle of start of Beyonce's solo project, right when Crazy in Love was dropping, they merged Epic's urban department with Columbia's urban department, and they pushed me out. That's when I became independent. So Matthew Knowles calls me up and he goes, I want you to keep this Beyonce record going. As crazy as it may seem, Crazy in Love was her breakthrough record. She had a song before that called Work It from the Austin Powers movie.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny, Donnie Einer, the CEO of Columbia, we were in this big staff meeting. Yeah, he said, new guy, what do you think about Work It? No pun intended, Work It is not going to work because to me, it was like a throwback Aretha Franklin style song from an Austin Powers movie that was dated in the 70s. It wasn't really the song that would take her from Destiny's Child to her maturing audience now that she's solo and growing up. So Crazy in Love actually came from Rich Harrison. Rich Harrison produced A. Marie. And A. Marie was doing so well, as developed her, that, she was like pretty much, I wouldn't say the queen of the label, but she had the hottest records. Her album just exploded out of nowhere. And the label wanted me to get in touch with Rich to get a song for Beyonce. And that's how Crazy in Love came about. So once I was kind of
Wow.
pushed out, they did the merger, they laid me off. That's when I started my skip. And then that's when I was promoting Beyonce independently. I had to push through with the Crazy in Love record because the label didn't really understand it. They thought it was like a go-go DC regional type of sound, and they didn't think that was going to work for her. I told them, I have 3,000 DJs nationally and internationally. I've been running tests. These guys, I've been dealing with these guys since Tommy Boy, since 1990. We're in 2000. For 10 years, I've been dealing with these DJs, so I know what they like. I know what they want. I know,
Mhm.
and then I'm a DJ as well. And I'm like, this record is going to blow up. And it did.
And it did. And
And
it did.
I did Naughty Girl and Baby Boy as well for Matthew. And my relationship with Matthew, Beyonce's dad, started at MCA. His first artist was an artist named Little O. He had a song called Can't Stop. And Destiny's Child was the background singer. If anyone goes online, you can look it up and you'll see them in the background. The song is like I Can't Stop and they're singing the hook. So we go way back to those days. We go back to like 96 when I was at MCA.
Wow.
And, so he trusted my opinion because I helped him with that project as well. And, so it's just one of those things. And then Rihanna, that came about after Columbia. I was doing independent promotion, and the guy that was the head of urban music for Columbia, he got pushed out too. We all got kind of, pushed out of it.
Is that something that's typical in the music
Yeah, it's very
industry,
typical.
right?
It's always shifting. New people come in, they want their people. They don't care about who was there before, what happened, and they want to start fresh with the people that are loyal to them. So the industry's always shifted. I mean, it was cool. I mean, I shift too. I mean, I left Tommy Boy, I left Pendulum. Only label I didn't leave was Columbia. Columbia was like, okay, we're merging, and your job is redundant with someone else. That new guys come in. I was like, whatever. Okay, so um, basically, starting my own promotion company was started with like the Beyonce project. That was the first thing. Then um, this guy, he was Mark Jordan. Mark Jordan was the head of urban music for Columbia. He ends up managing Rihanna after he left. So he called this guy Veda Nobles. So I hooked up with Veda. He started his production company, and we came up with a song for an artist named Malika that we were working with out of Florida. And the song was On the Replay. So ironically, Malika dropped out. Mark Jordan, who I work with at Columbia, calls Veda for a track. Veda sends him Upon the Replay.
Mm.
Everybody loves it. It helps solidify her deal at Def Jam with Jay-Z. And then ironically, the guy I worked with at MCA, Benny Pugh, who was vice president of promotion, he ends up at Def Jam. So when they started with the record staff, I think it was one of the situations similar to when I was at Columbia with Beyonce. No one really understood the Rihanna's record or her style, and plus she was from Barbados. So if you're in the early 2000s and you're from Barbados and you're not from Jamaica or Trinidad and you're a West Indian artist, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like there's no track record for that. Like
Right.
so, um, Benny calls me and we meet and I say, look, man, I can promote this record. I'm behind it. I was working with Veda with it. Actually came up with some of the concept for it. As I told Veda, if you're starting an independent production company, you want to make a record that appeals to DJ. So he got his songwriter, Majesty, to write a song that would appeal to DJs, but on the West Indian side. So Upon the Replay is DJ spin the record back, replay it. So
Ah.
that's where that came from. So Benny hires me to promote it. And first I'm stuck because Def Jam already tried to get it out to all the urban DJs. So I was like, okay, I'm going to send it to the crossover DJs and get it going. And I sent it to like Z100 and then station Power 102 in LA, like all the pop stations. And
Yeah.
then the breakthrough in New York happened to kind of make it help it crossed over was when Cypher Sounds on Hot 97 started playing it. And then the rest is history.
How has that changed now with DJs being so prevalent in terms of the artist uh, crossover or becoming mainstream, the huge breakout uh, album or song that's going to define their career? Has that changed?
It shifted to a point where everyone, I was, and I'm not trying to pat myself in the back or anything, but when I was at
Oh,
Tommy
you should
Boy,
pat. No, you know what? I'm gonna pat your back for you. Here you go. This is
I
virtual
try to be very
patting.
modest. Okay, in 1990 when I started Tommy Boy, the labels were primarily concerned with college radio and regular, the regular stations, top 40 crossover, the main panel, Billboard panel with radio stations. And I had a concept that I wanted to find DJs that played on a crossover station like me across the country because the consultant, Jerry Clifton, had 35 stations that he was consulting that kind of based their mix show on my show. And I know how essential we were in our staff meeting. Like people overlook the DJs. They figure, well, forget the DJ on the radio station. We got the music director and the program director. That's more
Mm.
important. But they didn't realize that the music director and program director meet with the DJs to find out what's hot in the street. So I said, if I can put together a database of all the top DJs that have my background in America and maybe in the UK, I'll be successful. So Tom Silverman said, let's try it, do what you do. And I was able to do that. So I guess by 1993, we had formed this group called the Hits Magazine DJ Panel. It's about 60 of us. We were at all the top stations in America, and we pretty much controlled quietly. We were like the men in black at the radio station.
Wow.
We controlled what was hot, what wasn't hot. We had connections on our conference calls with all the executives from Sylvia Rhone would get on the call, Diddy was on the call, Nas, Jay-Z, you name it. And they would ask our opinion on records. We would quietly tell them, no, go with this one, go with that one. I remember specifically with Diddy, he had called he was he would come over with Biggie. I met Biggie a couple times at a couple parties that he had, and then he was coming with the single Juicy. And I told him, Juicy's okay, but that sample from M2 is overdone. I was like, so I said, but I got this other record that you sent, One More Chance. I said, that's the record. That record is going to launch his whole career. It's going to satisfy everybody. He was like, really? He said, well, I need you still to play Juicy because I didn't get the other one together. But I think he thought about it. And I guess the video that they planned for that track was so amazing with all the side artists and all the guest appearances in the video in that house. And the song just took off. But what we were talking about earlier, what has changed at the labels and at the stations, the DJs' input seemed to be minimized to a point where, they don't really talk to DJs. They don't really get those opinions. It's almost like when I was doing it and other labels started mix show departments, the label was in contact with all the DJs. Then I guess when the internet hit,
The labels were in touch with
the DJs. The labels were in touch with the DJs. They would actually call you and say, hey, what do you think about this record?
Right. And so when did that shift happen?
I think it shifted, I would say, right around the time that social media started blowing up. Like after MySpace, by the time I got to Facebook, it was all social media, it was internet, it was emails. And then a big shift happened in the industry where my generation of record executives got pushed out. Because we were considered, oh, these guys are old, they don't know anything. We're gonna get the young kids because they are into the new sounds and everything. And as DJs, we still are into everything because we have to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I still do Sweet 16 parties for my friends' kids.
Yeah.
I have all the music. I mean, my record collection is ridiculous. So I stay up on the music, but not everybody that's in my generation does this. When I call the label, I'll get a really young 20-something, 30-something-year-old promoter. And it's funny, they have ridiculous titles now. Like back in the day, when you started as a manager and then you became a director, you're a senior director. And if you're lucky, you're vice president. If you're really lucky, I'm a senior vice president. And if you're super blessed, you become executive vice president. And now with the music industry, they're like fresh out of college. Oh, you're vice president. It's insane. It's almost like we're not going to pay you a lot, but we'll give you a big title, so you can have that feeling of that you really arrived. And it's kind of sad and misleading. And I think it's what do I call it? I think it's a false sense of accomplishment when you come into the industry and you're a vice president in like a year. When our people, especially Black people, it took us forever to get to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what we did, and no matter how great we were. But now it's like anybody coming in, and I'm not jealous or envious of that. I'm not, like that about it. It's just really confusing because overall, it hurts the industry. And when you look at music today, everything sounds the same. The only time you can tell the difference between one artist from the next, you have to see the video. The problem with that is artists have no longevity. They come in, and then before you know it, there's a 2.0 version of them. And that's the mentality of kids today. They're always looking for the upgrade. If they get an iPhone 5, they want the 5S. And when they get the 5S, they're waiting for the 6, then the
That's
6S,
right.
then the 7. Like everything is like, when's the update coming? Instead of saying, okay, I got this, I'm gonna rock with this for a minute. As soon as they get it, they wanna know what else is coming out.
So how in this industry then, how things have shifted, obviously, and changed. So what advice can you give this young person that's interested in the music business?
So I would suggest, for younger people, find out what your passion is, find out something that you're good at, something that is unique to your skill set. Don't be a copy. You were born original, don't die a copy. So important. And do the research. And I said, okay, you guys, you know what? You even know when, but you don't know why. Don't study. And they know everything. They tell you, and their whole mindset, in most cases, not all cases, but mostly, is based on theory, not based on application. Like you're telling me how something is based on how it should be, based on, what you studied about what's happening now. Where did that come from? And then anytime I want to shut one of them down, I go, well, why is that the practice? Well, why did they do that? They can't even tell you because it's about the research. It's
Right.
about, well, I saw it on the internet. or I saw it or someone was talking about it. What did you experience? So I would suggest, to young people, put the work in and want to last in the business and be able to invent yourself. You have to learn the basics first and then you can shift from there. And if you want to be a DJ, you have to learn what your skill set is, you're good at. You have to be a lover of music and study the music, and then you have to master your equipment. That comes from practice.
It comes from practice. Well, on the show, you know what? I'm catching that nugget and I receive it, even for, doesn't matter what your age is or what industry, because dreams shift, they
Yep,
change.
they do.
Sometimes people have a love of something and that changes and they have a love for, so it doesn't matter what your age is. But for these young people, listen, let me just throw this nugget out to you that Charles is really so wise in saying. First, do what you love, because you're not going to be successful where you really need to be if you're not doing what you love and you're calling. Okay. So that's one thing. The next thing is research, find out. Maybe it's not, and maybe you love it and then you find out, but maybe I can't make a career of it. Doesn't mean you have to stop, but research, find out, know every single thing about it. Okay. And then go out there and do it and learn and get a mentor like Charles. Boom, there's your nugget. Okay. So I want to also let's turn to what's going on today, this pandemic, this right now, these protests, this revolution that's happening, this movement that's happening. How do you think it's going to affect the music industry? I mean, it already has in so many ways, right?
Yeah, well, most of my DJ gigs, like I said, I'm doing Zoom events, and
Yeah.
a day later I have a Facebook Live event. So, this is
Look at
all my
me, I'm on
equipment. I'm already
Zoom
set up.
now too.
Exactly. But what I've noticed, once again, from going back into time, into history, like even if you go back to the 60s, Motown was the soundtrack for the 60s. All those songs that
Mhm.
uplifted people. And, from Marvin Gaye to Cream, that whole kind of Smokey Robinson. And then that's the 60s. In the 80s, when you had the whole, like, everybody was revolution, like the feminist movement, gay movement, like disco and dance. And so that was like the soundtrack of that. In the 90s, got a little more serious again. Economy was falling apart, kind of like how it is now. Then you had hip hop was emerging. Latin freestyle was emerging. Um, House music was coming out of like Chicago and New York. Things are happening. And I say now for this new generation in 2020, soundtrack is developing. As a DJ, I'm getting songs where people are definitely talking about what's going on in their music. And gospel house is starting to evolve now too. People are, going back to the word. And rappers are now challenged to come up with some real lyrics. Like the whole strip club culture / gang culture vibe of the music coming out of Atlanta. And, it's shifting because these kids coming up today, like when I look at kids in junior high and high school, and I see them out there marching, they're not like the 30-year-olds that we call the millennials. These kids mean business, and they're not following their parents. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. A bunch of junior high school students marched on Washington for climate control and then gun control, like 500,000 deep. We haven't seen that in a minute.
No.
And those kids, they're going to want real music.
You have a new dream on the horizon, and it's a book.
Yes.
That's not yet started, but it starts in the mind
It's
first.
formulated. The formulation is there. And every time I have conversations like this, just today, think of more things that I want to incorporate in. Because I have a lot of stories. It's
You
almost
should
like one
share
of my
it.
friends, he said, man, you remind me of Forrest Gump. Like a little picture of you and behind a lot of things that were happening and people don't even know you were there.
That's it.
And so I'm going to definitely, expand on that. And I'm going to tell my story from my perspective.
And tell it in the way that you want to tell it. Don't let someone
Absolutely.
else tell your
Oh
story.
no, you can't. You can't because they're not inside your brain. They didn't see what you see. They didn't hear what you've heard, and they haven't touched what you've touched. It's their experience, unless they can go into your mind and see your experience and how you lived it out. It's always going to be from their perspective, not from yours. You have to speak your truth from your perspective because only you really know that.
What do you want your legacy to be? I mean, Where do you want to evolve and grow to? Because it really is all about our evolution, right? And our growth.
Well, my legacy started when I realized in college that I really didn't want to be a chemical engineer. I went to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, which was an engineering high school. We finished in the 11th grade. Our senior year was all college accredited courses. By the time I got to the University of Maryland, I was on a senatorial scholarship in the College of Engineering, and I interned at Unilever. The reason why I always wanted to go to Unilever, that was my dream to be an engineer. I wanted to be a chemical engineer because my father worked for Unilever. He was a truck driver. He was never home. He's always support us. He was working double, triple, quadruple shifts. I was like, you know how you think when you're like fifth grade, you go, well, if I'm an engineer, I can work with my dad. He'll still be there and I can go to work with him.
Of
So it's like
course.
you think these crazy thoughts. So I always had good grades in math and science. By the time I got to high school, I got to make this happen. And then my father, man, a few words, comes into my room, goes, son, the job has this father and son program, and you can come to work with me. So when my coworkers go on vacation, I can bring you in. It's like bring your kid to work if they're at least 18 and in college, and they pay you. So I was like, I'm down. So it was like a dream fulfilled. So when I was working on the job and I realized I don't really want to do this, I was already in my third year of a 5-year program
Wow.
in Maryland, because the fourth year kind of finished and then your fifth year is like internships. So in my third year, I was like, I don't do this. I want my release from all this engineering classes was to go to party and DJ and music. So I was like, that's my passion. I'm gonna do that. So I just decided I was gonna do that. Kind of left, finished my university studies requirements, but I left. And my family, friends, they were like, they kind of shunned me. I was like, wow, this is really bad, but I can't help it. I have to do this. So
Yeah.
I did go back to American University, which was way too expensive for me. So I changed my major from chemical engineering to audio engineering. And then the radio station happened. Never looked back. Like, boom. Been going since 87. I've actually been spinning on radio now. This is my 33rd year having a mix show on some station, on some
Wow.
satellite or some internet. So, it's definitely a blessing. And,
Yeah. And you deserve
you,
it. You've worked hard to get there.
yeah, that's the story. But now I'm in a reinvention process, because you always have to shift and change. So my legacy is my music. I'm gonna reboot up my label, Skip Records, which is Sir Charles Independent Productions, Skip Records, and I actually have a production partner. We've been doing remixes as well, and his name is Derek Ricky Nelson. So we have a company together called House, and we've been doing house remixes of songs. We have a Deborah Cox record out right now. Easy Way just got released to DJs. Remixed that. He's a brilliant musician. Like, we're almost like a CNC music factory. Like, I think of a concept and a beat that I want and a vibe that I want, and this guy can play it, record it, program it. So that's how we work. And he's
And there
also
is
in his own right.
nothing better than that, right? Doing what you love, there is nothing better. There's this huge sense of freedom in that.
Absolutely.
And then being able to work with people that are like minded is just such a gift and a blessing.
Yeah, integrity is key too. I've been able to last because I'm straight up, I'm honest. I don't
Mhm.
do any shady business. I'm not like a quote unquote industry type of guy. I'm a regular guy. And I love doing what I do. I love. Fell in love with music in the '70s, and boom, here I am. I'm still doing it. It is a blessing.
What has been your most challenging experience, and how did you get over it? How did you overcome?
I would say the first like earth shattering challenge, I think it was the last time that I was like devastated, is when I was in college and I had to make that decision. Like, are you going to be a chemical engineer and have a consistent income, or do you want to do a DJ, like, or be into music and watch whether or not you fail? Because it's one of those one in a million type shots. If you miss, you really miss bad, and you have to start over. But I was so passionate about it that I had to power through it, because when your family, brothers and sisters, parents, your close friends, girlfriend, and they're like, this is the dumbest move you ever made in your life. People that you
Mm.
trust are telling you this is stupid. It's not going to work. And my family was like, you're going to go to New York and they're going to eat you up. And you're going to be right back here in Baltimore. Like, no, I'm not. So that prepared me for everything else that would come. There's no challenge greater than that for me.
Yeah, I
I mean,
agree.
even this COVID, this thing is crazy because a lot of my DJ gigs are canceled. The industry's like kind of like a standstill. But even before COVID hit, it was difficult because, as like I said, in the music business, as you get older, you haven't already established certain things, then they just forget about you. They're like, okay, we're going younger, especially in a technological era, because technology is about young people.
Yes.
And I mean, I never stop learning. I'm always learning. I don't know everything. Constantly studying, processing. I'm like a computer. Put the information in, process it. So I have to get all the correct information for the correct answer. That's how, it's worked for me my whole life.
That
So
is
that's what's key.
that is beautiful. Never stop learning. Be a lifelong learner.
And you can learn from anybody. Like I could meet a baby crying and look in their eyes and learn something like, wow, I can talk to a kid in elementary school or junior high school, or I could talk to someone that never went to school or someone that's totally, illiterate and learn from them.
Ashe.
When I grew up in Baltimore, the place they call the show that they named after The Wire, that was literally my neighborhood, 2110 McCullough Street. The Wire was like one street over Druid Hill when it started, Martin Luther King Boulevard in Druid Hill. That's 10 blocks from my house. The school where Tupac and Jada went, Baltimore School for the Arts, is on McCullough Street in the 1800 block. I was in 2100 block. Jada worked at Ricestown Plaza Mall, that whole area. I'm really from there, and I had to balance being a nerdy kid that was into science and mathematics with living in a hood with people that didn't really even go to school. So, I almost had like two dialects, I had two wardrobes. I'm busting out to the suburbs, and all my friends in school are white, and all my
Yeah.
friends at home are like hood. So it's like sometimes I forget where I was. I'd be at school and I'd talk a little too black, or I'd be in the hood and I'm talking too white. And I got really frustrated because you switching back and forth like you're a superhero with a different disguise. And then finally I said, forget it. This is who I am. I'm going to be one person for everybody. And that changed my life. I'm a nerdy kid. That's what I do. And I'm proud of it. I never fell into like peer pressure or, you can't shame me for what I do for me because you don't know me. So nobody can be, a better version of myself. So it's like, I'm going to be me. I don't care what people think about me. To this day, I don't care what about people think. I'm not moved by people's opinions because they don't know enough to know. And even when people treat me a certain way, I say, they don't know me enough to treat me the way they're treating me. And if they did, they wouldn't treat me that way. So that's on them.
That's
That's
right.
their perception of me.
I want to say in closing that your piece, if anyone walks away with just this one thing that you just said, is that no one can be a better version of you than you. No one on this planet
And we're all unique.
better version than you, and embrace it, right? Because we're all unique. So I'm going to leave it there with that, dreamers. Charles, I can't thank you enough. We have some other things we're going to be doing together.
Absolutely.
Really, it's been an honor and a pleasure to meet you and to share conversation with you and to learn from you. And I'm really simply it's been a privilege.
I'm really grateful and excited for the things that we're going to do. And this discussion is like I said, once again, it's going to help my book.
I love it. And it's the things that we're already doing right here, right now. So dreamers, continue to create the world that you wish to see, because now really is the time. You have now to do that. So I'll see you next time on Dreamers Unite with Sherri Pullum. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please, what are you waiting for? Just subscribe. All right. Thanks again.